Okay, I just found out that they're okay now.
Okay, great. So it's 3:32 and we had been put on hold. There's a little Skype problem, which I've noticed myself today. Yes, looks like he's at the L'Arc de Triomphe. Thanks for calling in from France. That's awesome. It just keeps getting better. Okay. I'm just pinning my friends to the board here. And then we will get started. All right. All right. Just folks are aware we are about to call the meeting to order. Before we do that, Ms. Prince, could I invite you to be our Pledge of Allegiance leader today?
Well, you certainly could.
I'm taking that as an accept. Great.
Practice, but I'll do my best.
Just don't do the 4-H pledge by accident. Okay. All right. We will call the St. Paul City Council to order. Roll call.
Jalali.
Here.
Naker.
Here.
Prince.
Here.
Tao.
Here.
Tolbert.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
Council President Brenmoen.
Here.
7 present, no one absent.
All right. Please stand and join Ms. Prince as she leads the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda items 3 through 14 are before you for your consideration.
Is there anything that should be taken off of our consent agenda today? All right, seeing nothing, Ms. Yang moves consent agenda. Roll call.
Jalali.
Aye.
Naker.
Aye.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The consent agenda is adopted. Item number 15, Resolution 20-962, approving the mayor's appointment of Matt Slavin to the St. Paul Port Authority. This is laid over from last week.
Thank you. And we laid this matter over at the request of Ms. Naker. I think there was just some questions people generally of support Mr. Slavin and is known from his work here at the city attorney's office, but had a few questions and had hoped for an opportunity to ask them to the administration. And I believe Noel Nix is with us today to answer questions if folks still have them. So welcome, Mr. Nix, to the meeting. And I will turn it over to Ms. Naker, who has her mute off.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mr. Nix, for being here today. I appreciate it. Yes, as Council President Brenmoen mentioned, I know I had some questions last week seeing this appointment. This is a board that we have been focusing on over the last few years to make sure that it becomes a more diverse body. And so I was surprised to see that the mayor was suggesting replacing a Black man who was stepping off the board with a white man, and was wondering how that decision was made and whether there were other qualified candidates who would have brought more diversity to the board if they were appointed. So I was hoping you could just speak to how many applications we received for this position and who the other applicants were and what sort of the rationale was for recommending this particular candidate.
Thank you, Councilmember Naker. Council President Bren Moen, I really appreciate the opportunity just to come and answer questions about the mayor's selection of Matt Slavin for the Port Authority. I will begin just by noting that we appreciate your support for today's appointments as well as last week's appointments. Between those 14 positions, 8 of those 14 are people of color, and 6 of those 14 are women across 6 different boards. And so even though we don't have full stats about the full slate of appointments that have been made over the past 3 years, I think that the totality of the candidates that we've brought forward to the council demonstrate the mayor's shared commitment with all of you to ensuring that we're maximizing the diversity of voices that are a part of our boards and commissions. With the Port Authority, I'll note, and I know that we shared this in some correspondence around questions regarding the mayor's choice of Mr. Slavin. He brings a unique perspective, having worked within the city of St. Paul in the city attorney's office, working with all of you as well as the mayor and deputy mayor and department leaders around development, including the development of the soccer stadium, as well as the plans around the surrounding development. And so this does represent an opportunity at an extremely critical time where the Port Authority is playing a large role with development such as Hillcrest and other development opportunities to ensure that someone who has an intimate knowledge and working relationship with all of you, as well as with the mayor and deputy mayor, is representing our city alongside council members Tao, as well as Councilmember Jalali to advance our equitable goals around development.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nix. Or the follow-up questions to that, Ms. Naker.
Thank you. So just to go back to, I appreciate that, Mr. Nix, the questions that I'd asked about how many applications we received and who they were from roughly and why Mr. Slavin's application stood out in the pool.
I don't have that information in terms of the total number of applications. As you know, we accept applications on a rolling basis, and have a pretty deep database of folks who've expressed interest across the 32 different boards and commissions that the mayor makes appointments to. I can certainly follow up with that information, but in accordance with the city charter that states that the mayor makes appointments with the advice and consent of the council, we have followed that process to the T.
Thank you. Ms. Prince?
Yeah, I want to make a comment here, as I made last week. With our boards and commissions, I have been pleased, Mr. Nix, with the efforts that have been made by the administration to make appropriate appointments to our boards and commissions and to really expand the diversity and the role. More than anything, I think it's the role of citizens in our processes. And one thing I want to point out about the Port Authority, it is what is called, I believe, a quasi-public body. Under its statutory authority, it is not required to do the same level of community outreach and process that we as the city do, that PED does on any of its development projects. The port does not need to go through district councils or community business associations to do its work. To its credit, I feel like it is working hard to do that. They worked with the community on the Beacon Bluff project, and they're also working through a community process on Hillcrest. But I think because of that reason, it really is critically important that the Port Authority appointments that are made by the mayor outside of the city council appointments are people who are involved in the community and who will be impacted by the projects that the port is doing. Just on the east side alone, we have the Hillcrest project, Beacon Bluff, Childs Road, and Red Rock Road that are all Port Authority development projects, their Port Authority industrial parks. And so I really do feel that it is important to have community representatives, residents of the city who will have a voice in that process, because the Port Authority is not required to have an extensive community process in the work that it does. So I would have hoped that maybe we could have looked at placing somebody on the commission who came out of the East Side, given that I don't believe any of the current members of the Port Authority are East Siders, which make up a third of the city. And I feel that Mr. Slavin is obviously highly qualified and very committed to the success of our city. But I feel like the idea of board and commission appointments is not to appoint recently departed city attorneys to boards and commissions that are already part of the Port Authority's process that is kind of powerful and remote from the community.
Thank you, Ms. Prince. I'm not sure if there's a question there or if that was more of a statement.
Well, it was a comment, and it was a concern about this particular appointment. I appreciate how we can have a comfort level putting people on boards and commissions who we've worked with as colleagues, but I don't feel that is the role of boards and commissions or our job to put people that we have a close working relationship with onto these boards and commissions, as opposed to providing leadership opportunities for people in our community.
Thank you. And Ms. Prince, I was simply trying to, I see there's other people who'd like to weigh in, so I wanted to make sure. Okay, Ms. Yang.
Thanks, Council President. No, I did notice that, you mentioned about how, I don't know if it was either you or someone from the mayor's office who sought out advice from the council, and that you all did that work to the T, but I did notice that Hillcrest was one of the first projects that you named that the Port Authority would be working on. And I certainly I didn't have anyone who reached out to the Ward 6 office. I'm curious to whether my colleagues, you all were reached out about this, the appointee as well, and any recommendations, or even anyone from your ward who would have been a great potential candidate for this position. Knowing that, that was what you had shared, can you explain how you all did reach out to the council and seek advice then?
Yeah.
And when did that happen?
I can respond to that. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, and when did that happen? Thank you.
Sure. Council President Brenmoen, Councilmember Yang, I think you'll recall that one of the first meetings that you and I had, Councilmember, is talking about vacancies on boards and commissions in your ward. I think that the administration really relishes the opportunity to have an ongoing collaboration on boards and commissions to make sure that we are not only tapping the Rolodex of those of us who work in the mayor's office, but also those of all of you who are deeply in touch with your communities. And we always work very hard to make sure that there is a ward balance to the greatest extent possible on our boards and commissions, even though, again, in many of the enabling laws and in the city code, there's not explicitly, in many cases, a requirement that there be ward balance. That geographic, as well as racial, gender, as well as sexual orientation balance is something that I think we all share as a value. I certainly, I end every email that I send to all of you with memos outlining the boards and appointments that are coming before you with a very sincere indication and invitation to collaborate around identifying qualified individuals who bring a diverse perspective and are able to provide substantive input into the incredibly important decisions that are before the city through our boards and commissions to just basically send us names. And so I know, for instance, with many of our planning commission appointments that were just made, Luis Pera, our director of planning, conferred with many of your offices to share the candidates who had come before, and the mayor certainly took that into consideration in terms of the slate of appointees that you just approved. So I would say that is certainly ongoing, and I'm always available to answer any questions about any vacancies forthcoming or past, current, that any of you would like to discuss. Because again, we do look at this as a collaboration to make sure that we have diverse representation on our boards and commissions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nix. Mr. Tao.
Thank you, Council President. No, thanks for being here today. It was really helpful, as we had a lot of questions last week and we didn't get any answer to. So, as a port commissioner, I don't have, I'm sure that Mr. Slavin was a good candidate. But I think what I question is that we are a city that has one of the focal point was about equity. And on the port, there's 7 of us. There are 5 male or men and 2 women. And so, to me, this is like a real opportunity for us to diversify that board even more, because take it, the city council itself, we have 2 men and 5 women, and they do great work. And so, I just feel like we miss a real opportunity here to live out those values. Each appointment is 6 years, and I'm sure that the mayor's appointment is well qualified. I don't have anything against that, but are we really practicing what we want everybody to do, especially on this commission, right? Like the Port Authority is it's a very important part of the city in terms of development and industrial development in the city of St. Paul. And I know you mentioned the other candidates and the other committees, and they're all important, but I think this one is especially important. And so I'm just curious, in the future, if people are interested, how do they find out about board vacancy? Not us, but the public, so that they feel that there's also transparency and that they're part of this.
Councilmember Tao, Council President Brenmoen, I really appreciate the question, Councilmember Tao. I think you very rightly point out, as your colleagues have pointed out, that the Port Authority's work is more critical now than ever. I think that you rightly point out that, as we look at each individual board and commission, there's an opportunity to think about the mix of voices that we have at the table. I'll note that Mayor Carter has done that since his time as Councilmember Carter. So Nika Constantino, who I know that you and Councilmember Jalali work on, was in fact a recommendation from Councilmember Carter to then Mayor Coleman as an appointee who would bring outstanding perspective, given her background in the financial sector and her past as a small business owner. So that's something that, again, we continue to take very seriously and appreciate your continued collaboration around, and especially when there are specific ideas and names of individuals out of your vast networks. We're all fortunate and privileged to have very vast networks of outstanding folks who have a desire to serve this community. So we always welcome those very specific suggestions of names of folks who might be interested. We do have within the mayor section, this is a very good PSA, so thanks for teeing that up, council member. There is a section within if you click on Mayor Carter on the homepage of the city's webpage, and then click on boards and commissions. The links to the various boards and commissions do provide the current roster as well as the current vacancies. We have explored in the past different ways of trying to get the word out, such as posting on LinkedIn, We've periodically done press releases, which I'll chide the press and say that apparently that's not very newsworthy when we do try to do releases and posts of that nature to advertise these critical opportunities. We do try to do our best to get the word out there. Word of mouth continues to be, I think, the most powerful means and promoter. We look forward to continuing to collaborate with the council to make sure that, via the city's communication channels, as well as through word of mouth, through all of our networks, we're making sure that we're spreading the word far and wide about these critical opportunities to serve in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Nix. Ms. Jalali.
Thanks. Well, don't necessarily have a question. I feel like this has turned into half comments, half questions. I just wanted to weigh in since it sounds like people are sharing both. But thank you, Noel, for coming and helping us understand this better. I supported laying this over just to get a little more breathing room for it, because I do think it's important, and I really appreciate what my colleagues are bringing forward. I do think that in my time on the port serving, I've been reflecting a lot on how it's important to reflect diverse representatives and perspectives at every level of the organization. And I have been vocal, and I think my fellow commissioners on the port and others have brought forward in the community rightfully. The port is still growing in a lot of areas to carry an equity mindset front and center, to actually have that reflected and felt very palpably, to sort of make visible the work that is happening and is underway. And to feel like there's diverse voices that are at every level of the organization, and that doesn't get made or broken in one appointment, but it is something every single person coming to that organization is responsible for upholding. The burden is not just on underrepresented people, it's on everybody, and I sincerely hope that Mr. Slavin is willing to do that work. I would hope that because he's being recommended, that he's viewed as being able to do that work. It's important to me. I know it's important to every single person around this table. And I am also glad to be serving on the port now as one of two women of color who are there. I feel pretty equipped to speak to every day where I see the need for a lot of the things that some of my counterparts have brought up. I also see that everywhere in every space that I'm in as a leader of color who's also a woman. I think this conversation has given me a chance to reflect on just the dynamics that are at play everywhere. And I think that people around this table are united in living up to those values. So I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate the conversation, even though it can feel uncomfortable and hard. And I see all the hard work you've put in and that our administration has to just to have actually some of the most diverse commissions we've maybe ever had as a city, which I think is huge. It's part of the decision-making infrastructure of our community. There are incredible people in Ward 4 that are being appointed to the Planning Commission and others as we speak who are bringing new perspectives because of who they are and the full body of what they've done. So I just wanted to take a moment to weigh in as someone who's currently serving on the port. This is, not the beginning, it's not the end. There's a lot of work to do. I'll support the appointment today, but I do think that a learning point from it is that we should work together to build out an actual process if and as we all find it appropriate. There is a process that has been followed in the charter. I think that is important to note, but I also hear from around the table people wanting just for there to be time, opportunity, maybe more like a clear A, B, C, D, E of what happens. I think it's all of our roles to know that and uphold it. And so I support anything going forward where we're trying to improve that further. I just think we can all benefit. And I think that a lot of hard work has gone in already. So just want to appreciate the points being made. It's good to deliberate, and thanks so much everyone for weighing in too. Hope to be able to work well with everyone going forward.
Mr. Tolbert.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and thank you Mr. Nix for joining us here today to answer some of these questions. I want to agree, Councilmember Jalali said it very well. I want to appreciate bringing this conversation to the forefront, and it's a conversation that needs to be in every decision that we made, and I know it has for Mayor Carter in his administration. One of the things I will add about this specific appointment is, as we know, especially those of us on this council who sit on numerous boards and committees and commissions, one of the major parts of being a board member is oversight. And you need to have diversity of background, diversity of different types of skill sets to have that oversight. And in terms of actual subject matter knowledge of what the port does in terms of their real estate deals. I think the knowledge that Mr. Slavin would bring to this board in an oversight perspective would be very valuable to the city of, all the citizens of the city of St. Paul. He is probably, with his time at the city, I've worked with many lawyers in my life as a lawyer myself, and he is probably one of the finest lawyers I've ever worked with in my life. And in terms of real estate law, he's probably, if not the top, one of the top real estate lawyers in the entire state. And that background, I think, in an oversight perspective, particularly because of all the development that the port is involved with in terms of the city of St. Paul, from Hillcrest to Midway to, the port now is involved with development outside of the city of St. Paul as well. That oversight and that knowledge is something that I think would be very valuable to both this council and the citizens of St. Paul. And so I think it is a good appointment. One of the skills when we're talking about, bringing diversity to the port's not a department, but an organization. Matt Slavin has, the HRA attorney during the Ford redevelopment put the values of this council, particularly around affordable housing, into action. And the reason we have Ford and the values of affordable housing amongst the other values that we passed was because of his skill set and his knowledge and his ability to translate our values into action. So I think I will be supporting this appointment as well. But I think it's a very important conversation, and I hope, going forward, and I know it's been hard as we transition to interacting via telephones and Zoom conferences, but maybe we can just take this as a lesson learned and have more conversations to make sure that we get all the applications and appointments out there earlier so we can have these conversations. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Ms. Naker.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that everyone has said so far, and frankly, having this conversation, because that was really the reason why I wanted to lay this matter over, was to have the time to talk about this. And I want to be really clear that for me, this is not about Matt Slavin. I agree with everything Councilmember Tolbert just said. I think he is a highly qualified nominee for this position, and I think it's unfortunate that because of the process to this point, we are having this conversation about an individual who wants to serve in public on the agenda, rather than having these conversations in advance before an appointment is made. And I think to Councilmember Yang's point, I appreciate the open invitation to submit names for consideration, but I do not feel that I was advised during this process until the name appeared on the agenda. We're being asked for our consent, but I don't know if we've been asked for our advice and consent in this process. So I do think it's about that transparency, and not just for us, but also for those people who are applying for these positions. I feel uncomfortable not knowing at this point how competitive this application process was. I know I heard from at least one applicant who had served time on a Port Authority committee so that she could prepare herself to be better able to serve and apply on the Port board, and believed that was, and was told, at least by the Port, that was a pipeline to being able to serve on the board. And these are not just items on our consent agenda, they're opportunities for real people, and they don't come up that often, as Councilmember Tao mentioned. So I'm torn about this, and I would really like to know from Mr. Nix, what is the plan if we approve this appointment today to diversify the Port's board?
Councilmember Naker, Council President Brenmoen, I think that's a really critical and important question, Councilmember Naker. I will go back and note that as Councilmember Prince pointed out, the Port has taken strides in terms of making sure that it's not just incumbent upon those who are appointed to serve on the board of directors of the Port, but that all of us who live and are impacted within the city of St. Paul have an opportunity to have a voice and more input than perhaps we've seen in the past in terms of the types of projects and development that come forward. That's happened in no small part, I think because of the encouragement of this body, along with Mayor Carter, to go above and beyond, what's required in writing. I think that we've seen the same demonstration from the administration, from our community hiring panels, to our budget game simulations, where we invite folks into the difficult conversations that all of us have about how to make sure that the budget reflects our values. That we've always tried to create opportunities for input very broadly and into who has a seat at the table and what decisions are made. I think that we're certainly open to that conversation in terms of what that looks like in terms of our boards and commissions. There may be ways that we can tap into the other ways that that we can sort of copy and paste and adapt some of the ways that we've tried to bring voices into decisions that go above and beyond what's required, what's in the charter. So very much look forward to that conversation, Councilmember Naker and Council President Brenmoen and council members, to figure out a process that continues to go even further than we've been able to go together in terms of bringing diverse voices into the process of deciding who will represent our community on these boards and commissions. I don't have the information directly in front of me, but I'll follow up and correct. I believe that within the next year or two, another position does come open, or another term does end on the Port Authority. Those are set up to be staggered, so there isn't vast turnover, and given the length of time that those appointments take place. And so, we hear the message loud and clear that there's a shared value here in terms of making sure that we have a diversity of backgrounds across gender, across race on this very important body. And we welcome that collaboration as we think about what a process looks like as we look forward to future vacancies.
Just a quick follow-up, Council President. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I want to echo what Councilmember Jalali said earlier about, I think there is a need for us to decide on what that process is. As just one very small example, I noticed on our agenda, we have the applications for all the folks who are being nominated for the other positions today, but there's no application from Mr. Slavin for the Port Authority. So I just think even in terms of something as simple as documentation, we need to figure out what this process is that's more transparent.
Absolutely. Please, the Council President Brenmoen and Councilmember Naker, please forgive the small oversight in terms of some of the administrative pieces. We do try to work closely with council operations staff to make sure that that's all in place. So we appreciate your grace, under a time where we're still in crisis, where some of those administrative details might get missed. But we will certainly continue to do our best to make sure that that information is available in a timely manner.
Thank you, Noel. And I see there's people who want to speak again, and I haven't had an opportunity to weigh in, so I'm going to butt in here and just say that I truly appreciate the work that you've done and the administration has done to find qualified candidates for all of the boards and commissions and to stay on top of this work. My experience in the eight and a half years that I've been on the St. Paul City Council is that this is typically something that ends up on somebody's back burner. And that, in fact, when I first started, there was a clause that allowed people to remain in positions and either when the term limit was up or until a suitable replacement was found. And it seemed that previous administrations leaned on that until a suitable replacement is found clause and allowed people to sit in seats. I think some had been appointed upwards of 27 years in certain commissions and committees. And to your credit, there has been a lot of attention paid to this responsibility by the administration and by you in particular. And I have felt reached out to in terms of looking for applicants that are from not only my ward, but parts of my ward that aren't particularly represented on boards and commissions. So I want to just lift that up and appreciate it. But sometimes my experience has been like, if you're really doing the work and you're showing up, that's when it gives people an opportunity to pick and point more at what you're doing. And so I just want to say, just to call out that there has been a significant increase in the intentionality and the effort behind diversifying these boards and keeping them up to date and filled. So I thank you for that. I'm going to be supporting this today. I do think that there's kind of two conversations going on here. One is is about the process. And I think that that is something that we can always tackle and do better. We can take it at our committee meeting, and the other is the specific appointment in front of us. That's one of many that are on our agenda today. So I'm going to be supporting this, and I will. I also commit to continuing to work intentionally with the mayor's office and the council on how we can continue to improve the process for committee boards, commissions, and appointments. I see Ms. Jalali and Ms. Prince are unmuted. Ms. Jalali?
Thank you. And I'll be brief, but I wanted to add, and I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say that if fellow commissioners on the port who are watching or following this conversation and feel like they've served well, want to be part of this process too, and know that someone with an even more reflective experience could come and have a chance to lead, then I ask you to also consider stepping back. That's a part of the work. And white men, especially men, when we're talking about gender imbalance, all of us take up space in different places, and we have the power to move back and give room. And so we'll all work on our end at the city, but I think that there is something to be said for organizations saying that they are committed to change, to also making room for that change. So I simply wanted to lift that point into it as a dual hat I wear as a council member and also as a port commissioner. I'm really proud to be a part of both, and we'll keep working with everyone for the vision we believe in. Thanks.
Ms. Prince?
Yeah, I have to say, when I came onto the council in 2016, Ms. Naker and I both had this as a very high priority. I was stunned to come on the council in 2016 and discover the very thing that Council President Brenmoen just said, which is that there had been people on some of our major boards and commissions for over 20 years. And that was something that Ms. Naker and I worked really intensively with community members and really meaningfully, both I think with Mr. Nix and also during the Coleman administration with Nancy Holmans, who really took our concern seriously and really made a huge change in trying to bring about a more thoughtful and meaningful process. I am going to be voting against Mr. Slavin's appointment, not because I have any doubt about his capabilities. I am really uncomfortable with the mayor's office selecting a staff attorney who has just left City Hall to put on a board and commission, which needs greater community input. And I appreciate that Mr. Nix heard me to say that the Port Authority is working hard to include the community, but I want to be really clear. The Port Authority has no required public process, and its statutory enabling legislation does not require that it go through a public process to make decisions about how it spends its money and how and where it develops. So I just want to be clear about that this is viewed by people who are paying attention. The Port Authority is viewed as a very elite development organization that follows its own rules. And I think that we are, by appointing a staff attorney who has been negotiating some of our biggest development deals, I think it gives the appearance that we are putting an insider on the Port Authority board. So whether or not that is what's happening, I think that we have a duty as the City Council to make appointments that will provide leadership opportunities for members of our community who do not have that kind of access and ability to lead. And so I just feel very strongly, and I'm sorry, as I think someone else mentioned, that we're having to have this conversation about a very highly qualified candidate at an open meeting. But this in no way reflects on his talents and abilities or his commitment to doing what's best for the city of St. Paul. I just feel that we have gotten to this point on this, and I am not going to be able to support that appointment.
Okay, so now I see Ms. Yang, Ms. Jalali, that are waiting to speak. And I do want to point, I need to say, Ms. Prince, we're replacing Paul Williams, who was the former deputy mayor. So when you're talking about staff being appointed to the Port Authority, it is not only is it not uncommon, that's who we're replacing. Is it somebody who is a staff member? So this is not an anomaly. I also do want to say that the wonderful thing about the work that the Port is doing with the Hillcrest development is that there is a community commission that is working with the Port Authority, and a council member from our from the council is on that commission as well. So we're not out there hanging out there without representation on important projects like Hillcrest. I did see Ms. Yang, I do see Ms. Jalali, and then I do believe it is now almost 4:15 on this one item. So I would like to get moving forward on a vote, whichever way it goes, and to the remainder of our agenda. Ms. Yang.
Thanks, Council President. So as for me, I won't be supporting the recommendation. Councilmember Naker and Councilmember Prince, I want to echo what you said, that this is not about Matt Slavin. I think that this is the reason why we are even spending a lot of time talking about this, is because this is about the values that we push for every day, to push for our city to look like every day as well, in terms of, even the most, even our own boards, where people are applying to volunteer on these boards to continue moving our city work forward. I feel, I want to say that I'm hearing about, folks really sharing that we have a really great candidate, like one of the best candidates chosen, to be recommended to be on the Port Authority. And I don't think that, we disagree with that, but I want to talk a lot more about, why this is a really important topic to me, especially as I do equity work and anti-racism work, because I feel equity and anti-racism work, when we talk about, just the situation, it's about creating space for people who are marginalized in our community to actually be serving and being decision makers in our city. And the fact that, if we continue, selecting people who have already been, have already received many, many great opportunities to do a lot of really great work in St. Paul, then how is that equitable at all? We are really leaving out opportunities for other folks to be able to have a resume, for example, that looks really, really incredible. And so to me, I think that as someone who, is really invested in people, I want to see people be able to say that, hey, I got to work, on a project like Hillcrest because I was selected to be on the because I was selected to be on the Port Authority. I think it's about investment in people and the people resources in our community. We don't have to act on scarcity at all. I heard clearly from my colleagues that they had, people who were great candidates also apply. And the fact that, we are seeing, just one candidate right in front of us, knowing that there were many other, I think that, we are not living into our values and to the commitment that we are making here in St. Paul. And so I won't be supporting this recommendation.
Ms. Jalali.
Thanks. I actually was in the waiting line for 2 comments ago to recognize outgoing Paul Williams and also acknowledge his role as a huge leader in our city as a former deputy mayor. So I appreciate you making that point. Council President Bren Moen, I wanted to just to the points too being made about huge projects that are coming up and the need for engagement, that I'm very supportive of the goal of having Ward 6 input on the port, and I really took a mental note of upcoming terms and terming out and chances to continue to increase representation for parts of the city where these projects are coming through and have a direct through line in relation to the port, be that on our planning commission, be that on the board itself. Will wholeheartedly support that. I'm supporting the appointment today, but I also do think those points have a lot of value. I appreciate Councilmember Yang wanting to bring those community voices to the fore and make sure it's reflected. So I'll be voting in support with those notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jalali. Mr. Tao?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to, I wasn't clear earlier. Noah, did you say there was a application for Mr. Slavin?
Yes, that's correct. There is an application that was completed by Mr. Slavin, Councilmember Tao, and Council President Bren Moen.
Okay, and so, and that was before or after he knew that he was going to be appointed, that he fill out the application?
That was concurrent to him being asked by the mayor to consider appointment. As I've mentioned, per the city charter, what the city charter requires is that the mayor name appointees with the advice and consent of the council. I'm not aware of any requirement that there be an application. I think that those are things that we add to ensure that there's information and transparency as all of you are deliberating. Again, I do apologize. We do try to work very closely with council staff to ensure that those applications are out. And I do take the time to provide emails. And I know there were several emails back and forth talking about Mr. Slavin's qualifications in response to the questions and inquiries that the mayor's office had received. And we can make those a part of the record as well. But we will continue to try to work closely with council staff to ensure that that those applications are on the agenda so that we can all advance our shared value of transparency.
Okay. What happened if the appointment doesn't get approved today?
Council member Tao, Council member Brenmoen, we would certainly look to work with all of you to bring forward another name. We certainly, and I was surprised and interested that Councilmember Naker hasn't mentioned the name in a lot of the correspondence that we've had. If there is a very qualified candidate, again, in every email that I send about boards and commissions, I very earnestly and sincerely extend the hand to to have suggestions that we can help bring forward before the mayor. So certainly that is a standing invitation. So would certainly welcome specific ideas about individuals who understand the complexity of the deal, which you can surely appreciate, Councilmember Tao, that come before the port, but also reflect the diversity of our community. I'll note that Mr. Slavin is a longtime resident of Ward 3, the Matt Groveland neighborhood. But again, to the extent possible, we do try to ensure and he does replace Mr. Paul Williams, who was also a resident of Ward 3, who is also a resident of Ward 3. But that geographic balance as well as racial and gender balance is very important. So we would welcome your input on specific ideas for folks who meet the needs for well-informed voices on that board, as Councilmember Prince rightly points out, in terms of the importance and the complexity of what's sometimes considered a quote-unquote elite appointment.
Okay. This is really important and difficult for me because, I'm all about practicality and making sure that we position the best talent that we have in the city in all of our boards and commission to serve us and the public good. But I feel that in my heart of heart, and this is nothing about the candidate, it's just that I truly believe that we should do everything we can to diversify the port board. And so I feel like this is a big opportunity that we're letting pass us. So those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Mr. Tolbert.
Can I maybe make a suggestion? It sounds like we have a lot of questions that people are still want to talk about this and have questions about the candidacy, and maybe we can look up at the next appointment date. Can we lay this matter over for another week, and maybe Mr. Nix can get together with people who want to have continued conversation about the mayor's appointment to this board?
So Mr. Tolbert would like to move, and it would be a 2-week layover since we don't meet next week, which would give ample time to look further into this. And I think your question about when does the next appointment come up, when is the next opportunity to add another person to the Port Authority Board. So the motion would be to lay the matter over for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think
Correct.
that would make sense.
All right. So the motion before us is to lay the matter over for 2 weeks. Is there discussion on that motion? Ms. Yang?
I guess I don't know where the motion is coming from. I feel, people are actually asking a lot of questions in today's meeting about this agenda item. And so I don't have anything else to discuss nor questions. So I wouldn't support the layover.
Okay. So is there more discussion on that motion? Mr. Dow?
I would support the motion because I feel that I'm conflicted, and because I am on the Port Authority, and I need to consult with my port attorney and just see what is in the interest of my ward and the city. So I would appreciate that layover.
All right. Mr. Tao supports a layover. Is there other discussion on that motion? Ms. Jalali?
Similar to Councilmember Yang, I actually feel fine, and like I know my position. If other council members do feel like they need time, I'll certainly support that. I just would speak that in moving a layover, that we're coming out of the time that passes with just a clear sense of direction and maybe a sense of a plan, so that regardless of how we choose to move forward with our votes, there's also those pieces done and that we can make some progress. So this has just been significantly discussed. I do hope we can move forward together. I think that we will, but I just wanted to speak to that point. Thank you.
So within the comments you made, I did hear you say that while you're ready to vote, you would be supportive or open to laying it over for 2 weeks based on others' request.
Yeah, I'll support a layover if it sounds like it's significant. And yeah, I just wanted it to lead to some progress. So yeah, I'll support the layover. Thanks.
Okay. I cannot tell. There's a motion for a layover. Ms. Yang, you're back off.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councilmember Tao and Jalali, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts about this. Definitely respect that you both are on the Port Authority as well. And, I am willing to support the motion as well for the layover for more discussion.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Liang. Mr. Tolbert moves a 2-week layover. Roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is laid over to August 5th. Item 16 is final adoption of ordinance 20-24, granting the application of 978 Front LLC to rezone property at 978 Front Avenue from B2 Community Business to T2 Traditional Neighborhood and amending Chapter 60 of the Legislative Code pertaining to the zoning map.
All right. This is before us for a final vote. Is there any discussion before we take that vote? Mr. Tao?
Nothing, Council President. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just looking at the mute buttons. All right. So if there's no discussion, this is final reading, and Mr. Tao moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The ordinance is adopted. Item 17, Resolution Public Hearing 20-157, amending the financing and spending plans in the fire department in the amount of $283,186 for the COVID-19 Healthcare Response Grant from the Minnesota Department of Health.
All right. This is a public hearing, and the comments have been accepted by email and by phone. And connected to in Legistar, and as such, Mr. Tolbert moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen.
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 18, ABZA 20-3, considering the appeal of Joseph Paris for Ryan Companies US Inc. to a decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals to deny 2 variances pertaining to the building lot coverage and the car share space requirements in order to construct a 6-story mixed-use building at 2170 Ford Parkway.
All right. And Mr. Tolbert, are we getting a staff report on this item?
Yeah, Tia Anderson is on the line.
All right. Ms. Anderson, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council President Brenmo and council members. If it's appropriate, I will share my desktop. I have a staff presentation that was added into Legistar as well. And so hopefully my desktop is sharing.
Yep.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tia Anderson. For those who maybe don't know me, I'm in the Department of Safety and Inspections. I work with Yaya Diata, the zoning administrator, and I am a city planner. This variance appeal that is before you today is from the Board of Zoning Appeals, an appeal by Ryan Companies for 2 variances that were denied at the end of June. Just for a little bit of context for folks who maybe have not been as intimately involved with some of the Ford site Highland Bridge planning efforts, this is a more than a 10-year effort in the making. It's sped up in the last couple of years as we adopted the overall public realm master plan and zoning study in 2017. And then since Ryan Companies has been named as the master developer, the city at the end of 2019 signed a redevelopment agreement between the city and Ryan Companies. And now this year, the public infrastructure and public realm amenities are underway. And here we are with our first mixed-use development site about to begin. I'm handling the site plan application for that particular proposal within the Department of Safety and Inspections, and this is specifically for variances related to that proposal. So the variances before you on appeal are for 2170 Ford Parkway. This, for orientation, is also referred to as Block 3, Lot 1. It's at the corner of Ford and what will be Cretin Avenue when it goes through. It's an F5 business mixed zoning district, which is one of the new F districts that was introduced. It is surrounded by existing land uses. There's commercial along Ford Parkway, and then to the east with the Lunds Highland Village Shopping Center property. To the south is what is planned to be a senior affordable housing complex by Common Bond. They also have variances for under appeal, but you will see them in August. What is planned across to the west, across Cretin Avenue, is a civic square at the corner here. And then this larger lot here, I think, is likely to be subdivided into 2 mixed-use parcels. It's also worth identifying there's this other outlot A, which is about a half an acre private alley, and that's as stated within the redevelopment agreement. It is a city-owned outlot. It is not right-of-way, and the redevelopment agreement establishes it as a private alley to be developed with this Block 3, Lot 1 project for use by that lot as well as the Lot 2 for their access and their maintenance of that private alley, though it be city-owned. F5 business mixed district. So all of the F districts are new to our zoning ordinance. This F5 district is outlined here in black. This is really along the existing Ford Parkway business corridor. And the expectation is that this would be an extension with a variety of commercial, retail, office service uses, with the allowance for mixed-use multifamily. It is the district that expects the highest percentage of commercial uses. Within the master plan, and this is a page pulled from the master plan, you can see some of the renderings that were included as examples of things we might see within the F5 business district. This is some renderings of the building that is proposed on the corner of Ford Parkway and Cretin Avenue. This top left picture is looking at the corner from across the street, and so this is Ford Parkway going up to the left, and then going down Cretin Avenue. The two pictures on the right-hand side, this is looking north on Cretin towards Ford Parkway, and this is looking essentially from the property across the street, heading towards the south, towards Boland Avenue. So very similar to the types of buildings that were identified in the master plan for the F5 zoning district. So the site plan for this particular parcel, for this particular property, it's a 6-story mixed-use development. Within this development is a 51,000 square foot grocer, and that would be primarily on the ground floor on the northern half of the property. There are 230 residential units above and 436 structured parking spaces. And there are 2 levels of the commercial parking that is accessed off of Cretin Avenue here. And then the residential parking, which is the 1 level below grade, that is accessed off of this Outlot A private alley. As well, there is a exit only from the commercial parking out onto that Outlot A alley. And this is also where the grocer, their loading dock would be here within that Outlot A. Also within the parking structure, there's anticipated to be 9 electric vehicle charging spaces, as well as 240 bicycle parking spaces between the residential and the commercial uses. A key part of the conversation with the Board of Zoning Appeals, and something that you probably saw as you were reading through the public testimony from the Board of Zoning Appeals, as well as letters that were sent to this body, was in regards to open space. And so just to clarify, there's not an open space variance that's being reviewed today, but open space is a point of, certainly I think, of confusion. The Ford Master Plan has an open space coverage requirement for private developments. And so these are things like landscaped areas, patios, walkways, play areas, outdoor amenities. And this particular project meets that private development open space requirement. And that's essentially what you see outlined here in greens and yellows are those areas of open space, both at ground level as well as in a 3rd floor amenity deck. I want to highlight that this is separate and distinct from our overall public parks and open spaces that are dedicated site-wide and are not being impacted in any way by the private developments, that those public parks and open spaces that are dedicated land are part of the redevelopment agreement and dedicated with the plat. So the BZA, when they met June 29th, 2020, for this project at 2170 Ford Parkway, they approved 3 variances for glazing at the ground level, the percentage of window openings, as well as 2 height variances, one for along interior lot lines, another for the decorative corner element that was shown in the renderings. 2 variances were denied, and that's what's before you today, for lot coverage maximum, as well as for a car share parking requirement. At the Board of Zoning Appeals, there was quite a bit of testimony that was received. 7 letters were received in support, including from the Highland District Council and the adjoining commercial properties, and 166 letters were received in opposition, some of which were not specific to the variances, but referred to the master plan overall, as well as a number of discussions around open space within the broader site. You'll see as well in the packet for today, there were also a number of letters. By my count, my last count, there was about 57 letters, some of which were folks who had presented testimony at the BZA, resending their comments now for the City Council. So the BZA, when they reviewed the variances, they consider 6 findings. For the lot coverage variance and the car share parking variance, they identified that the applicant, Ryan Companies, did not establish any practical difficulties and so denied the variance. As well, for the lot coverage variance, the BZA indicated that the applicant did not identify any unique circumstances to the property that would warrant the variance. The building lot coverage that is being appealed for those findings 3 and 4. For context, again, it was the building lot coverage requirement is 70% maximum for the lot. So the variance request is for 90.3% lot coverage. It's worth noting that, Outlot A, that private alley that I identified earlier, is not included in the lot coverage calculation. If it were a public alley, we would include portions of that lot, or alternatively, if this was a outlot that was owned as part of this block's development, they are developing it as part of this block, they just don't own it, the lot coverage variance would go down significantly if that portion of Outlot A that adjoins this parcel were to be included. But they are not asking for that. However, they are indicating that the applicant is indicating that that is part of the practical difficulty in meeting this particular finding, both the absence of including Outlot A in the calculation, as well as the fact that this is a building footprint that is very typical for a commercial grocer with structured parking, and that it's therefore reasonable use of the property that cannot be accomplished without this variance. As well, our master plan and F5 zoning district comprise a number of really overlapping requirements that all need to fit together for commercial use with structured parking. We require that the buildings orient to the right of way, that we have minimum setbacks, that there's a certain amount of density, that we have higher floor area ratios here, and then trying to balance that with our lot coverage for the building, needing to meet open space coverage requirements for the building, as well as we do have a maximum impervious area that is allowed for stormwater management. And all of those things trying to fit together does create a very unique circumstance. The building footprint, which is essentially the lot coverage that incorporates the structured parking within that building footprint, that footprint overall is proportionate to those other density and dimensional standards that are met. In terms of the car share requirement, so the public realm master plan had a special parking provision that requires car share vehicles based on the amount of residential units, as well as commercial parking spaces. Based on that calculation for this project, it would be 8 car share spaces. And this would be something provided by a third party, such as Our Car. Ryan Companies is appealing this variance denial based on the fact that there are practical difficulties in complying with the master plan, in such that Our Car really is the only car share provider in the St. Paul area today, and they are no longer adding, as part of their operations, that sort of out and back car share station model within private development sites. And there really is no other provider that is presently able to provide that kind of car share model. It is worth noting that city staff and Ryan Companies are working with Our Car to provide what we would envision as a mobility hub within the greater site. and that may end up being very well on public property, on public right-of-way, that sort of open, available car share hub. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
Are there questions for Ms. Anderson? I do not see anybody with questions per se. Don't go too far away though. Sometimes they pop up. So thank you very much for the report. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is a BZA appeal. And we did have our public hearing comments open, and folks were able to participate online by email or by phone messages, which are transcribed, and we can see those in our Legistar as attachments. So I believe that we could begin, and maybe Ms. Moore can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can begin by having a motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Tolbert.
Yes, I would believe so.
All right, so a motion to close the public hearing by Mr. Tolbert. Roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang? Aye. Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed.
All right, Mr. Tolbert. And Mr. Tolbert.
Yeah, thank you. And as Ms. Anderson, thank you for the thorough staff presentation and background on this and the specifics as we get this in development. As people know, this is it's an appeal. It's also the first development on the Ford side. I know many of you are out there to see how exciting the site is, and this is actually that, as many of you were at, well, I think everybody virtually and separately did a little groundbreaking on Ford. But just for additional background, and Ms. Anderson did mention this, but this is the first of 2 appeals from the Board of Zoning Appeals for the vertical developments on Highland Bridge, the former Ford site. The one that we're dealing with today is from Ryan Companies to construct their mixed-use building with a grocery store on the first level market rate apartments on the upper floors. Common Bond also has filed an appeal, and that variance will be with us at the next, I believe, in August. This appeal is Ryan proposed a building to fit the goal and objectives outlined and approved by the City Council and HRA and the Ford Site Master Plan and Redevelopment Agreement. To work within the layers of requirements set within the Ford Site Plan, this building proposal needed 5 variances, 3 of which were granted by the BZA. So I'm just going to focus on the 2 before us. The first one, lot coverage for the building, and the second one, a certain amount of designated spaces for the car share vehicles. As Ms. Anderson noted, the Highland District Council recommended granting these variances, as did the Board of Zoning Appeals staff report. The BZA board denied both variances based on findings 3 and 4. For finding 3, the BZA staff report found that the applicant had established practical difficulties for complying with the lot coverage standard for a mixed-use building in the F5 district, as the size of the proposed building was also driven by another F5 district standard for commercial and residential structured parking within the building footprint. The BZA staff also found that the size of the building met other F5 district standards, including floor area ratio. In addition, BZA staff noted the lot coverage calculation did not include the area of Outlot A, the alley area east of the building. The zoning code permits alley areas to be included in lot coverage calculations. However, Outlot A was removed from the site under the terms of the redevelopment agreement. One of the functions of the outlot is to provide access like an alley. If the area of Outlot A was included in the lot coverage calculation under typical circumstances, the scope of the lot coverage variance would have been considerably less, as pointed out by the applicant. On balance, meeting F5 structured parking requirements within the building for the proposed uses while designing a building that complies with most other F5 district building standards are practical difficulties which reasonably favor granting the applicant's lot coverage variance as recommended in the BZA staff report. I find, therefore, that the BZA erred under finding number 3 when it found that the applicant had not established any practical difficulties in complying with zoning and the Ford site Highland Bridge site requirements for building lot coverage. Likewise, I also find that the BZA erred under finding number 3 when it found that the applicant had not established any practical difficulties in complying with the Ford site standards for shared car use. The staff report and the information provided by the applicant today clearly demonstrate that there are practical difficulties for the applicant when it comes to meeting these standards, especially when the current business models of third-party car sharing providers simply do not mesh because they do not presently provide the type of services envisioned by the Ford site standards. For finding number 4, the BZA staff report found for the lot coverage variance that the applicant had established circumstances unique to the property that were not created by the applicant. As noted, BZA staff did not include the area of Outlot A in the lot coverage calculation because it was removed from the site under the redevelopment agreement. The redevelopment agreement and its requirements for Outlot A are circumstances unique to the specific development site, as the outlot was removed from the site for reasons germane to the redevelopment agreement. Even though the use of the outlot area remains consistent with an alley use and the zoning code permits alley areas to be included in lot coverage calculations. Including the outlot area does not eliminate the need for a lot coverage variance, but including it does reduce the extent of the variance request to a more reasonable size, especially when considering the applicant's need to provide structured parking for both commercial and residential uses within the building's footprint. Together with the applicant's uncontroverted statement that the rock underlying the site prevents providing the required structured parking spaces under the building and force the applicant to expand the building's footprint outward in order to meet the Ford site's parking requirements. All constitute unique circumstances not created by the landowner, as the BZA staff report reasonably recommended. I find, therefore, that the BZA erred under finding number 4 when it found that the applicant had not established circumstances unique to the property that were not created by the applicant for complying with zoning and Ford site requirements for building lot coverage. I also find that the BZA erred under finding number 4 when it found that the applicant had not established circumstances unique to the property that were not created by the applicant in complying with the Ford site standards for shared car use. The BZA staff report and the information provided by the applicant today clearly demonstrate that there are unique circumstances that hinder the applicant's ability to meet the Ford site standards, especially when there appears to be no third-party car sharing providers providing the sort of service envisioned by the Ford site standards. Holding the applicant to meet a standard which the market does not presently provide for is unreasonable, especially in light of the applicant's statement that it will continue to try and find a vendor to provide the type of services envisioned under the Ford standards because they do not presently provide the same type of service envisioned by the Ford site standards. Therefore, I move to grant the appeal by Ryan Companies and approve the 2 variances that were denied by the BZA based upon the reasons that I've given here today, as well as those contained in the Board of Zoning Appeals staff report dated June 5th, 2020. And I hope my colleagues will join me in these findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tolbert. Ms. Prince.
Yeah, on the car share, it's a variance requesting that they not have to provide the space for the car share requirement. So if they're continuing to try to negotiate with a car share company and we grant that variance, does that mean they'll suddenly come up with the space? I mean, I am guessing this is a project that is meant to be about the coming century, and it feels to me like car share is likely to happen within the next couple of years. If it isn't available at this very moment, we just got a $3.5 million grant from the Department of Energy to expand our car share program. So I hate granting them a variance, taking them off the hook for space for car share if that then means that those car share opportunities won't be available in that particular location.
Ms.
Can
Prince, do you remember?
anyone clarify that for me?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same question. I thought that those were specifically to areas of concentrated poverty, but perhaps somebody can answer.
Well, and that may be the case. If they're actually in the process of trying to negotiate to get car share into the Ford site, I just have to, and actually, isn't this building the 30% AMI affordable building? I mean, I guess I need answers on that, because I believe this is the affordable housing component, and I don't want to take Ryan off the hook for providing space for car share just because at this moment in time, they don't have a provider, because I'm guessing there will be a provider in the foreseeable future.
Ms. Anderson, can you answer those questions? I realize we're putting you on the spot a little bit there.
Yep. Councilmember Prince, Council President Brenmoen, I cannot answer the question about the grant that the city has received and how that can be applied. So I would defer to someone else on that. I do want to just correct that this is not the affordable housing project. So
okay, that's good to know.
Yep. So I will share my desktop again really quickly, and I think one of the renderings I have may help. So, whoops. Overall on the site, if you can see my screen again, we've got the Block 3 Lot 1 project. That is the one before us today for the 2 variance appeals. The southern portion of that block is the Lot 2. This is the Common Bond affordable housing project that will be before you with a different variance appeal on August 5th. So just to clarify that, there are 3 affordable units affordable residential units in this Lot 1 project, but it's not overall an affordable housing project. So just wanted to clarify that. In terms of the overall car share requirement, so it is a requirement currently for based here on the number of residential units, as well as the amount of commercial parking spaces, and it would require to provide 8 car share spaces then within the building. What the applicant has stated is that Our Car, being the only provider in the area, that currently does not work with their business model. And though I have not personally been part of conversations with Our Car, I know others within the mayor's office staff and PED staff and Ryan have been talking with Our Car about how to bring a car share to the site, and if that looks more like some of the mobility hubs that the city has been working on, is more likely than for Our Car to change its operations and start providing per private site vehicle spaces.
But the issue is that we're taking them off the hook for providing any spaces in that particular development for car share, because today there isn't a car share provider. Is that right? I guess, is that accurate, that once we grant this variance, they're not required to have any car share provider space in that ramp?
Councilmember Prince, Council President Brenmoen, that would be correct, that a granting, and again, I'll defer to city attorneys who are on the line, but granting of the variance would then would vary the requirement to no longer have these car share spaces within the site. I will add that if the variance is not granted and they are required and there is no third party operator to provide it, then I will need to work with the city attorney's office to figure out how to approve a site plan that does not meet our requirements.
Can
Mr. Tolbert?
maybe I can add some additional background. I think part of it is the Ms. Anderson talked about it, but also part of it is that the model, the Our Car model, is continuing to change, and I know that as we've tried to find a car sharing that can work in the city, and they've continued to evolve over time, and we've been working really closely to get one citywide. But I know that Russ Stark and Our Car and Ryan have been working really closely on how to bring a workable model into the Ford site. And also, this does not preclude what the motion that I made today does not preclude them from adding the spots at a later time into this specific development.
Thank you, Mr. Tolbert.
But it takes away any incentive for them to do that. I mean, they're not required to do it. So if they have a problem with doing it, I guess I just feel like we put that into the master plan for a reason, being that this is the 21st century development, and to let go of a car share in the first project just doesn't, to me, make that much sense. So I can vote no on that one, and which is what I'll do.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Prince. So Ms. Prince you're speaking in opposition to the motion Mr. Tolbert made. Any other discussion?
That's part of the motion.
That part of the motion. All right. Any other discussion on this item? Ms. Prince, did you have more? Oh, no. Okay. I'm just, all right. I'm looking to see if there's Mr. Tolbert moved to grant the appeal, and I know, and he stated the reasons into the record. So there is a motion to grant the appeal, and so I don't know if we're taking each part of it separately. The full appeal has been moved.
Well, that's fine. You can call the roll, and I guess I can just vote against the motion. But
okay. I'm just trying to clarify what right. The actual process that we're doing here.
It's on the basis of the feeling like I don't want to let them off the hook on the car share. So
okay. So on that basis, understood. Any other discussion on the motion, the move to grant the appeal? All right. Seeing none, roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
No.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, being Councilmember Prince. The motion of intent is the appeal is granted. And next we have a suspension item.
Mr. Tom moves suspension of the rules. Roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The rules are suspended. Resolution 20-1051, honoring and remembering the life of Long Yang.
Mr. Tao?
Thank you, Council President. Bear with me. My coworker is trying to move my table here. Thank you. So thank you so much. It's an honor and opportunity for me to honor Mr. Long Yang. And he's been a community leader for a very long time. A little bit about him. During the Secret War, and from 1961 to 1975 in Laos, he was a student, and he was recruited to he was recruited to work in Udon, and Udon was a air base in Thailand that worked with the Americans, and his job was to be in charge of a group of men and women who would decipher communication in Vietnam. So they would fly these recon aircraft over Vietnam to collect all the communication, Russian, Chinese, the movement of the Pathet Lao and the Viet Congs. And then overnight, those would be hand delivered to Udon, to Mr. Long's team, and they would decipher those communication, and then they would have to get all of those ready and then hand deliver to Sky, which is the secret base for the CIA in Long Giang, Laos, where General Vang Pao is, and they would, from there, plan with his senior staff on how to engage the enemy of that time. And so after war, Mr. Long was a devoted Catholic in his whole life. And so after the war, he got out, came to Thailand and helped hundreds of family working with USAID and the federal government to help bring the Hmong people to the United States. And so it's a tremendous loss to the community. A person with history and knowledge of the Hmong American experience from Laos to here has, lost his life. And so he will be truly missed. And I just thought I'd take this time to honor him, and that he was not just a Hmong hero, but an American hero, and all the lives that he has saved. And then his work during the Vietnam conflict, helping to detect the movement of enemies and to work and to fulfill his duty as a soldier and as a man and a husband. And so really just want to take this time to honor him and read this resolution. So honor and remembering the life of Long Yang. Whereas Long was born December 20th, 1947 in Nong Hae, Laos, to Song Si and Song Lau. And whereas in 1963, at the age of 16, Long was recruited as a special guerrilla unit soldier by the United States CIA under the leadership of Major General Vang Pao. And whereas for more than a decade, Long loyally served under the leadership of Major General Vang Pao in partnership with the United States government and military, commencing his military service as a Morse code operator and trainer, followed by special assignment to lead intelligence operation. And whereas in May 1975, the Kingdom of Laos fell to communist rule, ending the United States operation of the Secret War, resulting in the Hmong diaspora, forcing hundreds of thousands of Hmong to leave their homeland and find refuge in new country to escape persecution for their allegiance to the United States. And whereas during the diaspora, Long directly led 9 family members out of harm to the Thai refugee camp and successfully resettled the whole group among the groups in the United States. And now he and his descendants call St. Paul and Minnesota other city home. And whereas upon Long Yang, his family's arrival to the United States, March 12, 1976, he remained committed to serving the community through volunteerism. And whereas Long Yang was a key leader with the Hmong organization Project at Take Action Minnesota and led the Justice for Veterans campaign to secure recognition for Hmong American Day by Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton in 2012. And whereas in 2017, under Long Yang's leadership and persistence, Hmong American Day became a registered nonprofit organization. And whereas in recognition of Long Yang's dedication and service to his community, Mayor Chris Coleman proclaimed December 20th, 2017 to be Long Yang Day in the city of St. Paul. And whereas on July 13, 2020, Long Yang passed due to a chronic heart condition and left behind his wife, 5 children, 18 grandchildren. And now, therefore, be resolved, the St. Paul City Council honors and remember the life of Long Yang and his contribution to the fabric of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. Thank you for taking the time to read that too. It's impressive recitation and important to honor that life. So thank you for that. Mr. Tao moves approval. Any discussion on that motion, Ms. Yang?
Thanks, Council President. Councilmember Tao, I just want to say thank you so much for taking a lead on this resolution, and thank you to the co-sponsors as well. Like, this is a beautiful resolution, really capturing what Long Yang, who is a fellow elder of mine, what he has done in his life. And I feel like, when I think to just like all the many times that I've seen him and the work that he does, like if it's anything that I felt touched by the most, it was that he always did his work, really including the voices of people across different age in our Hmong community. And whenever he saw, younger Hmong leaders and activists, like he always greeted them and always included them in his projects. And to this day, we still celebrate Hmong American Day. We celebrate it over at the State Fair. And it's always, a really a fun but also like beautiful moment where people across like different race and age come together to celebrate our Hmong community. And so I just feel like this is such a great honor. Thank you for this. I know that if Long was here, like he would be so thankful and just filled with joy about this. So thank you for creating the space to honor him.
Thank you, Ms. Yang. Any other discussion on the motion? Ms. Prince? Nope. All right, roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Naker?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Council President Brenmoen?
Aye.
7 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted.
Before we move on to the legislative hearings, I'm just going to turn over facilitation of the meeting to Vice President Naker. I need to step out. So turning things over to Ms. Naker.
Thanks, Council President. And I haven't facilitated one of these virtual meetings yet, so I will rely on our city clerk's guidance for the next steps.
For the following cases, no objections to the legislative hearing officer's recommendations were received, and therefore the recommendation is to adopt the following items. And I will warn you, it's a rather lengthy list. Item 20, RLHTA 20-237, 335 Arbor Street. 22, RLH SAO 20-8, 1552 Arlington Avenue East. Item 23, RLHTA 20-190, 984 Armstrong Avenue. Item 26, RLHTA 20-173, 687 Aurora Avenue. Item 30, RLHBO 20-22, 1619 Beach Street. Item 31, RLHTA 20-303, 546 Blair Avenue. Item 32, RLHTA 20-301, 548 Blair Avenue. Item 33, RLHTA 20-240, 1083 Bradley Street. Item 34, RLH FCO 20-67, 1223 Bush Avenue. Item 37, RLHTA 20-295, 1510 Concordia Avenue. Item 39, RLH FCO 20-61, 4749 Cook Avenue West. Item 41, RLHTA 20-220, 1145 Dale Street North. Item 44, RLHTA 20-248, 616 Desnoyer Avenue. Item 45, RLHTA 20-259, 1046 DeSoto Street. Item 47, RLHTA 20-236, 1223 Farrington Street. Item 49, RLHTA 20-270, 661 Geranium Avenue East. Item 56, RLHTA 20-361, 615 Holly Avenue. Item 47, RLHTA 20-179, 2156 Eaglehart Avenue. Item 58, RLHBO 20-25, 949 Iowa Avenue West. Item 59, RLHTA 20-342, 133 Isabel Street East. Item 60, RLHTA 20-266, 1138 Jesse Street. Item 61, RLHTA 20-302, 648 Kent Street. Item 62, RLHTA 20-341, 1857 La Crosse Avenue. Item 63, RLHTA 20-205, 406 LaFond Avenue. Item 64, RLHTA 20-194, 709 LaFond Avenue. Item 66, RLHTA 20-202, 1378 Lincoln Avenue. Item 39, RLHTA 20-343, 556 Monoman Avenue. Item 70, RLH FCO 20-39, 464 Marshall Avenue. Item 72, RLHTA 20-196, 385 Maryland Avenue East. Last page, long one though. Item 73, RLHTA 20-293, 426 Maryland Avenue East. Item 74, RLHTA 20-178, 1736 Minnehaha Avenue East. Item 76, RLHTA 20-213, 542 Ohio Street. Item 77, RLHTA 20-214, 542 Ohio Street. Item 78, RLHTA 20-406, 720 Ohio Street. Item 81, RLHTA 20-258, 767 Rose Avenue East. Item 85, RLH VBR 20-43, 1108 6th Street East. Item 86, RLHTA 20-174, 1834 Stillwater Avenue East. Item 90, RLHTA 20-254, 1375 Thomas Avenue. Item 92, RLHTA 20-269, 1320 Wilson Avenue. And finally, item number 93, RLHVO 20-19, 1242 Woodbridge Street. And the motion would be to adopt these items.
Great. Thank you so much, and kudos on an impressive reading of the list. Is there any discussion of the recommendation on these items? Seeing none, Ms. Prince moves approval of the recommendation. Roll call.
Jalali?
Aye.
Prince?
Aye.
Tao?
Aye.
Tolbert?
Yes.
Yang?
Aye.
Vice President Naker?
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted. For the following items, no objections to the legislative hearing officer's amended recommendations were received. Therefore, the recommendation is to amend and adopt the following items. Item 19, RLHTA 20-419, 315 Annapolis Street West. Item 24, RLHTA 20-413, 518 Ashland Avenue. Item 25, RLHTA 20-453, 309 Aurora Avenue. Item 27, RLHTA 20-436, 1016 Aurora Avenue. Item 28, RLHTA 20-438, 42 Baker Street West. Item 29, RLHTA 20-428, 1191 Beach Street. Item 35, RLHTA 20-454, 967 Charles Avenue. Item 36, RLHTA 20-418, 130 Colorado Street East. Item 38, RLHTA 20-452, 164 Congress Street West. Item 40, RLHTA 20-410, 118 Dale Street North. Item 42, RLHTA 20-416, 481 Dayton Avenue. Item 43, RLHTA 20-411, 541 Dayton Avenue. Item 46, RLHTA 20-429, 1253 Etna Street. Item 48, RLHTA 20-424, 66 George Street East. Item 50, RLHTA 20-414, 695 Hague Avenue. Item 51, RLHTA 20-409, 754 Hague Avenue. Item 52, RLHTA 20-435, 1289 Hartford Avenue. Item 53, RLHTA 20-433, 2049 Hawthorne Avenue East. Item 65, RLHTA 20-415, 903 Laurel Avenue. Item 67, RLHTA 20-417, 193 McCubbin Street. Item 68, RLHTA 20-439, 912 Magnolia Avenue East. Item 71, RLHTA 20-412, 1006 Marshall Avenue. Item 75, RLHTA 20-430, 1905 Minnehaha Avenue East. Item 79, RLHTA 20-426, 741 Pierce Butler Route. Item 80, RLHTA 20-425, 667 Robert Street South. Item 82, RLHTA 20-437, 1701 St. Clair Avenue. Item 83, RLHTA 20-422, 1888 St. Clair Avenue. Item 84, RLHTA 20-434, 1232 Sheffer Avenue. Item 87, RLHTA 20-420, 350 Stevens Street West. Item 88, RLHTA 20-421, 701 Stryker Avenue. Item 89, RLHTA 20-441, 674 Thomas Avenue. Item 91, RLHTA 20-440, 727 Van Buren Avenue. And lastly, item 94, RLHTA 20-423, 37 Wyoming Street East. And the motion is to amend and adopt these items.
Great, thank you. Is there any discussion of that recommendation? Seeing none, Mr. Tolbert moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali,
Aye.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted as amended. For the following 2 items, the recommendation is to refer the items to legislative hearing on September 15th. Those are items 54, RLHTA 20-264, 0 Herbert Street, and item 55, RLHTA 20-288, 0 Herbert Street also. And again, the motion is to refer to legislative hearing on September 15th.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, Ms. Yang moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali,
Aye.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolutions are referred to legislative hearing on September 15th. For the following item, the recommendation is to continue the public hearing to the January 13th, 2021, per request of the mayor to assist residents with deferment of nuisance abatement related assessments until 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is item 21, RLHTA 20-157, 793 Arlington Avenue West. And again, the motion is to continue the public hearing to January 13th.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, Mr. Tao moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali.
Aye.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolutions are referred to legislative hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. The 7 in favor, no, 6 in favor, no opposed. The public hearings continue to January 13th. Sorry about that. Did I do that wrong?
In the case of the property cleanup assessments, number 95 and 96, are those ones you just read?
No, those are the ones I'm about to read.
Arlington. Okay, thank you.
For the following two items, the recommendation is to continue the public hearings to the April 22nd, 2021, per the request of the mayor to assist residents with deferment of nuisance abatement related assessment until 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The items are 95 RLH AR 20-52 and items number 96 RLH AR 20-53. And again, the motion is continue the public hearings to April 22nd.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, Ms. Jalali moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali.
Aye.
Prince.
Be careful. Sorry.
Councilmember Prince, did you?
Aye.
Tao.
Aye. Sorry about that.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is continued to April 22nd. Items 98, 100, 101, 103, 106, 108, 111, 112, and 114 all pertain to ratifying the assessment for the city's cost of providing collection of delinquent garbage bills for services during October to December 2019. The files included are RLH AR 20-56, 58, 59, 67, 70, 71, 74, 75, 77, 78, and 80. The recommendation is to adopt.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, I will move approval. Roll call.
Jalali.
Aye.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted. Sorry, I started second guessing myself at some of these. And lastly, items 97, 99, 102, 104, 105, 107, 110, 113, 115, 116 all pertain to ratifying the assessment for the city's cost of providing collection of delinquent garbage bills for services during October to December 2019. The files included are RLH AR 20-55, 57, 66, 68, 69, 71, 76, 79, 81, and 96. The recommendation is to amend and adopt.
Thank you. Is there any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, Ms. Prince moves approval. Roll call.
Jalali.
Aye.
Prince.
Aye.
Tao.
Aye.
Tolbert.
Yes.
Yang.
Aye.
Vice President Naker.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted as amended.
Great. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of our agenda, I believe.
Yes.
And I know it has been a lengthy one, but I know there are at least a couple folks with some good news to share, and we all need good news. So anyone want to start? Councilmember Prince?
Yes, next Wednesday, when we are not meeting because it's a fifth Wednesday, the Santa Foundation will be holding a free food, farm fresh food, free distribution event from 1 to 3 p.m. on Wednesday, July 29th at Highwood Hills Elementary School in the parking lot at 2188 London Lane. You must drive to the event and volunteers will load the food right into your vehicle. It's easy. Each car will get 3 boxes of fresh food that includes produce, meat, and dairy, and there will be enough for 700 families. All are welcome, no ID required. And then speaking of the Santa Foundation, I just want to let everybody know that yesterday they had their groundbreaking on the new athletic facilities that they're going to be building at the Conway Rec Center. And you'll recall a couple of years ago, they got $4.5 million in state bonding. Well, in the last 2 weeks, they received $500,000 from the 3M Foundation, $2 million from the Bremer Foundation, and $2 million from Delta Dental to be able to complete their fundraising, which is just an incredible accomplishment. And for all of us who do this work during an especially difficult year where money is not flowing, I just want to say how hopeful it makes me feel that our local corporations and local philanthropy understand that investing in our kids is the most important thing they can do at this time. So I just am so gratified to the partnership that the city has with the Santa Foundation. Tony Santa's leadership is phenomenal. And also to our corporate partners who have all stepped up, including, there are so many. Vomela was there, again, Delta Dental, 3M Foundation, Bremer, the St. Paul Foundation. It's just an amazing story. And so I just want to congratulate Tony and his organization and everybody that's part of it for what will become a world-class sports complex for kids who live in our city, and that is especially meaningful to East Side kids who don't have anything like this nearby. So thank you for letting me share that announcement.
Hear, hear. Thank you so much for sharing it. Any other good news around the table, virtual table? Ms. Jalali.
Thank you. We don't have a council meeting next week, so ahead of that, I want to just share an opportunity coming up on Friday, July 31st. I want to share that this is through community group organized by School Board Director Chantel Allen, who's also a proud Midway resident. There used to previously be an effort called Sanitize the Cities, which really did a lot to connect folks who just don't have access to masks with street outreach teams that were giving out masks and free sanitizer. And that effort has actually evolved, and it's now called Love First Community Engagement. And it's really continuing to do the spirit of work that's about how a lot of under-resourced and low wealth and working class communities of color are disproportionately impacted by not just the pandemic, but by how the government responds to it. And that shows up in masks and mask access. It shows up in food distribution. It shows up in rates of contact and transmission, all these different things, right, that we've been hearing all about. Love First Community Engagement is just one effort that's trying to change all that by just meeting people safely where they are and creating spaces to support our impacted communities. So Love First is having an event called Art and Healing for St. Paul Youth. It's Friday, July 31st. It's going to be from 6 to 9:30 p.m. at Maxfield Elementary. And this is a chance for youth and families to safely come together in a distance way with masks. We did get our mask mandate today, and I think that no matter what, people have been wearing masks outside and indoors. They should keep doing that. But come to Maxfield Elementary next Friday from 6 to 9:30 if you are interested in a community event that is aimed to be focused on healing, art, and supporting our youth. Thanks to Director Allen for her leadership in the community. Want to make sure people know about that. You can look it up on Facebook for more. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ms. Jalali. Any other good news around the table? Seeing none, and there's nothing else to come before us, we are adjourned. Have a great night, everyone.